last week we talked a bit about how Quantum Break is no longer an exclusive for the Xbox One. It'll be on the PC. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. We talked about it in some detail, but our pal Riley Little from GameRant.com wrote an opinion column for GameRant about why he thinks exclusives don't matter as much. So we said, you know what? Let's call him up and have him explain himself.
Well, I mean, the reality is now, like, if you look at platforms, like, what companies have had the most exclusives? It's probably Nintendo has the best exclusive IP, I would imagine. Like, they are defined by their games. And the Wii U has sold horribly.
Right.
It has not done anything for them, and the only people who have bought it solely for Nintendo games, and it's just not enough. You need more. And what Microsoft has done is they have, in the past, like last year, 2015 was the best exclusive lineup of games like ever they build it as. And even then, the Xbox is apparently being outsold, 2-1 essentially by the PlayStation 4, which has had very few exclusives in comparison. So the piece in general was about how exclusives are kind of overhyped, I guess. In a sense, they serve a purpose, don't get me wrong. Because, like, if a Nintendo console came out and it had all the third-party support but it didn't have the games, nobody would buy it.
Right.
So they certainly play a role. But what I suggest, or what I'm saying in the column, is that exclusives, like, they play a role, but they kind of don't really have the same grab anymore, which is why Microsoft is really smart by taking something like Quantum Break, which looks like a great game. I'm sure it's going to review pretty well, but it's not a console seller.
Yeah. No.
Like, you look at that, and that's not going to move hardware. So they need to make money back by bringing it to PC.
Right.
That's the only way they can really profit off this game. And by doing so, they expand their reach to an entirely new audience. And that's something that we're kind of seeing Nintendo do as well now. They're kind of shifting into mobile. This year, they're supposed to have, I think like 4 games coming out by the end of the year, all on mobile devices. So Nintendo has done that in a bid to get people to see, or kind of like get interested in its IP again. And that's exactly what Microsoft is doing with this. I mean, if you look, the most like interesting aspect of their lineup to me is what's not coming to PC. Because you look at it and you go, Rare's Sea of Thieves is on PC, and like, Gears of War Ultimate Edition is coming to PC, and Killer Instinct. And these games alone are good, but I feel games like Gears of War on PC serve a purpose solely to get people enticed for Gears of War 4, which will be Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're playing it on PC, you're going to be like, oh man, I kind of like this game. And then, the sequel, which is like everyone's talking about it right now, it's made by the Coalition in Vancouver, so it's a Canadian game. It's kind of neat. But like, people are going to be like, I really like the first game that I played, the remastered version. I really want to play this new one. So, and the only way to do that is to invest in hardware. So that's basically what these companies are doing now, is they're baiting people to get interested in IP so that they can commit to a larger purchase down the road.
And I think that's a really smart way to go, because I think something that the general gaming populace loses sight of a lot or often is that it's a business. These companies are out, these studios are out to make money, and if they don't make money, they're not going to make good games. And it's sort of chicken and egg, where you have to invest in this game to give them the money to make another game, and so on and so forth. So it's smart for them to look at and say, look, we're going to put this on as many platforms as possible, or whatever makes sense for us, as you said, to introduce it to a new audience. And I think it's smart business practice, man, to get as many people hooked as you can on different platforms, as long as the caveat is, as long as the product doesn't suffer when you spread it out like that. Like, you don't want to spread it too thin and have your dev teams push to their limits, and then they can't put the product out as good as it is, or as good as it should be. Because I think that's sort of the worry that people have, is that, if it's on Xbox and it's on PC, then the dev teams are split 2 ways and the product might not be as good, which I think is a concern that people have.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are valid somewhat. I think the thing that the backlash from Quantum Break was largely from entitled gamers. I feel they go, I bought an Xbox, and like, I don't know how many of them bought it for Quantum Break. I can't imagine many of them did. They
I hope
probably
they
bought it
didn't.
for Halo and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, other friends had it, but I mean, the reality is, like, just because you bought an Xbox doesn't mean you're entitled to Quantum Break. Like, you're gonna have to buy it anyway. Just because it's coming to PC doesn't like ruin the title for you.
Yeah.
It's
You still
gonna
get
be
to play
probably a decent game.
Yeah, you still get to play it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're opening a door and you're making it more profitable, and in that regard, it's smart because that way, like, you're more likely to greenlight sequels and build franchises on that.
Right. Or give a studio money to make a new IP. I mean, the money all goes to the one studio, right? So if Uncharted doesn't make bundles of money, then the likelihood is that The Last of Us never gets made. It's just they need the money to make those things.
Right, and it's weird because exclusive games aren't selling that well anymore. Like Halo 5 is the lowest selling Halo of all time.
Yeah. But that could also be because there's been 9 Halo games and people are tired of it.
Yeah, because when you look
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at games that Naughty Dog makes, like The Last of Us, that's obviously sold super duper well because it was something, quote unquote, it was different. It wasn't the 16th iteration of the game that you've been playing since you were a teenager.
Yeah.
I that's totally that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for sure.
There is a level of boredom.
I think an interesting point that you made in your argument too is that even with exclusives, how many exclusives can you name that are really, like you put it, console sellers? A Halo is a console seller.
Yeah.
Uncharted 4 is the upcoming Uncharted 4 is a console seller.
Essentially, anything big from Nintendo is a console seller.
Right. Anything Nintendo. Riley's right in the sense, but Riley's right in the sense that the only reason you would buy a Nintendo console is because you want to play Mario. Or
I want to play the new Zelda. I want to play Smash. Yeah.
Admittedly, if Zelda was available on Xbox, I would play the hell out of it, and I would never buy another Nintendo console again.
Well, man, I don't know if you've been following the NX rumors, but apparently it's going to interact with PS4 and Xbox One somehow.
What?
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
Do tell, Riley.
Apparently.
All right.
Rumor has
it's
it.
going to be an app. I'm not sure to what extent. They may. It sounds like they're probably doing a streaming service of some sort, kind of like Netflix, but for Nintendo IP.
Oh,
really?
Interesting.
It sounds like they're going to do something like that.
It'll interact with your Xbox and PlayStation by setting fire to it remotely from your Nintendo, burning it.
You download the app and it just bricks the console.
Yeah, it's just a virus that says "Buy Nintendo."
But to go back to the other point, for every exclusive game that is a console seller, the majority of them aren't. They're nice to have, but they're not really console sellers.
No, and that's kind of what is happening. I mean, Nintendo, to their credit, they've done okay for a company that basically is relying on themselves to generate any sort of revenue.
Right, yeah.
They don't have the support of any third parties at this point, really. Once in a while, Ubisoft's bailed, Electronic Arts bailed the hardest. They only put sports titles on it anymore.
Yeah.
And they just kind of stick to the Toys to Life games and Nintendo IP.
Right.
And that's really all they have.
And frankly, when people buy Nintendo, that's what they're looking for.
Exactly.
They tried with, I remember, what was it? Arkham City came out, and I think it was a few Splinter Cell came out, but nobody really wants to play that on Nintendo console. You have other things to play that on, because generally, I would say not all gamers, but a lot of gamers have more than one console, or a console and a PC or something. So I don't know. You don't really turn to Nintendo for that stuff. You just want to play your Marios and your Donkey Kongs and your Zeldas on that anyway.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. If you want some living room fun, if you want to have friends over, a Nintendo console's the way to go.
Yeah,
because they're I don't think many games support couch co-op anymore, which is kind of sad. But going back to the topic, there's no exclusives serve a purpose to a point, but at this time, Nintendo's probably wishing they had some of their games on other consoles. If you brought Mario to an Xbox or something like that, it would sell gangbusters. It would be ridiculous how well that would do.
Yeah,
but it would also potentially tank their own unit, though. If you could get a Mario or a Zelda on an Xbox or a PlayStation, then your need to buy a Nintendo console dips significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, in the piece I wrote, I mentioned, I'm not saying put Halo 5 on PlayStation.
Right.
That'll never happen because, why? Sure, they generate income, but then you look at games like Minecraft, which Microsoft owns, and that's on Wii. They just brought it to Wii U. It's on PS4, it's on PC, it's on Xbox, it's all over the place, because they know that, Minecraft, as great as it is, probably isn't going to move many consoles anyway.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, that's like oh, I'm already here, and that is too. I'll grab it. Like that. It's one of those.
But you know what's interesting about this is I get people, and I'm sure Christine and Patrick do all the time, and you do too all the time. People come to me, well, what should I get, a PlayStation or an Xbox? People come to me all the time and say that.
Yeah.
And my one answer to them is, the units themselves are almost identical. There's no real discernible difference between a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One. Spec for spec, they're almost the same. The difference is, A, what do your friends have or people that you play with? What do they have? Because if they mostly have Xboxes, get an Xbox because you want to play with them. And B, which exclusives do you care about? If you're a big Halo fan, get an Xbox. If you're really into Uncharted, get a PlayStation. And that's usually, to me, what the deciding factor is. What do your friends have? And then the exclusives. When you look at the exclusives and you say, oh, I'm a really big fan of Gears of War, well, then you should probably get an Xbox. So I think that's one of the deciding factors that I tell people.
Well, and I think Microsoft took a huge misstep, kind of going veering off a little bit by initially their pitch was online always, the only way to play. You can't share games or anything like that, and it immediately turned off the influencers.
Yeah,
who were just like, no, okay, well, I'm just going with PS4 because it's more of what I want.
Yeah,
right.
And I mean, obviously, Microsoft turned around and they're like, okay, we're not doing that because that was dumb. But it was too little, too late at that point.
Yeah,
and
people had already made up their minds.
They're just being overwhelmingly outsold by the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I mean, they are generating revenue and they're outpacing sales of the original Xbox 360, which is good. But they've missed out on that initial audience in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Riley, it's certainly an interesting column and an interesting argument. And I think, if people have thoughts, they can tweet us at GotGame590 and let us know what they think. Do exclusives matter as much as they used to? Would you like to see certain exclusives hop consoles and onto different units so you can play them? It's an interesting idea. But thanks for your time, pal. I know it's Saturday morning, so I appreciate you just devoting a few minutes to us.
Hey, no worries. I'm going to go back to bed now.
That's our pal Riley Little from GameRant.com. Go and check out his article on why he thinks exclusives aren't as big a deal anymore. Christine, maybe we can throw a link up on our show blog this week.
Absolutely, we
All
can.
Right. Yeah, we can. All right, cool. I would love to see if you said no, to hell with it.
Just screw that article. Nobody gets to read it.
I'm sorry.